overviewing the mimer of Ana Nisiv Malka, very, very famous mimer in 1971, Yud Aleph Nisan, which at that time was not yet as we envision it. Oh, Yud Aleph Nisan, this grand Farbrenyan of Chassidim, the Rebbe's birthday was quiet. It's Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe goes to the Oihel, David's Mincha. He said that night there's going to be a Farbrenyan, appropriate preparation for us for Yud Aleph Nisan, which is this Sunday. We are literally within 3 days. It is Thursday night. Within 3 days already, the energy is accessible. So this is a really wonderful time to connect to the Rebbe, connect to Yud Aleph Nisan through this very foundational mimer, this foundational Chassidic discourse that's so linked to the Rebbe's birthday, to Yud Aleph Nisan. So the Rebbe in this mimer begins by quoting a teaching of the Midrash, focusing on the phrase, which is Aramaic, Ana Nisiv Malka, I choose the king. The Midrash gives us an analogy. There's a king who comes into a country. He's accompanied by all the high officials. And as they come in, looking very important, one person from the commoners that are seeing the king come with his whole entourage, one person says, okay, I'm going to choose that duke. He's going to be my patron. And another says, I'm going to choose that officer. And another says, I'm choosing that commander. And they're all choosing all these very high, important looking people. And there was a clever person, the Midrash says, there's one clever person among them. And he says, I will choose the king. That's the key phrase of this entire Chassidic discourse, Ana Nisiv Malka. I will choose the king. And then he explained why. Because the others could be replaced. Nobody's replacing the king. That's the mushal. That's the analogy that the Midrash gives in explaining this concept. What's the nimshal? What does this story stand for? What does it represent? So the Midrash explains to us that there's all the other nations of the world. This one serves the sun, this one serves the moon, and the Jewish people, we only serve God. Ana Nisiv Malka, I choose the king. And this is based on a pasuk. There's a pasuk from Eov. So in this pasuk of Eov, it says, Chelki Havaya, God is my portion. My soul says, God is my portion. The Jewish people say, God is my portion. The rest of the world can pick all the high officials, all the luminaries, all the big powers. The Jewish people, we pick the king. Chelki Havaya, God is my portion. The Rebbe explains, we could look at this Midrash and say, all right, what does that have to do with me? I mean, I've got problems, but I'm not tempted to worship the sun or the moon. I don't know too many people that go dancing in front of the moon or dancing for the sun. So this is, archaic pagan people, nothing to do with us. There's no way. The pagans that worship the sun and the moon is because they saw them as intermediaries, conveying God's power to this world. We all, on some level, probably worship intermediaries. We're not bowing down to idols, but we make sacrifices. We serve powers that we see controlling our lives, controlling our finances. For some people, worshiping the sun and the moon translates into their good morning is checking how their stocks are doing. Or another person that's dancing to their boss's flute. The important people in their community, in their shul, in their neighborhood, in their social circles, people that we see have a lot of power and a lot of influence, people that we see could help us or, God forbid, could harm us. So we probably, perhaps, have some worship of other forces besides God. We want to be what the Midrash is calling the clever person, right? In the mushal, all the people are saying, I take the duke, I take the commander. And the clever person says, I choose the king, which unpacked means I want a relationship with God alone. Now, the question in the mimer is, which is a very obvious question, why to be clever to choose the king? I mean, if you were a child, and you could say, should you serve the second in command, the third in command, the fourth in command, or the king himself? everyone's going to choose the king. Everyone understands the king is greater than anyone else. Obviously, if we're understanding this in terms of the nimshal, in terms of what this represents, what this symbolizes, God and all the forces that are the intermediaries of his influence, well, obviously we understand God is greater than the sun or the moon or the power of wind or the power of rain. Or, I mean, like, why do you have to be so smart for that? So the Rebbe explains that if you want to receive spiritual powers, blessings, influence, energy from the king, from godliness, you have two prerequisites. One, you have to have bittul. You have to have self-nullification, self-transcendence. And two, you need avodah. You have to work with yourself to refine yourself, to get past yourself. So if I'm choosing God, if I'm choosing Hashem, of course that makes sense. Well, but it's hard work. I've got to work on my nullification. I've got to work on my refinement. If I don't choose the king and I choose the sun and the moon and the stars, the dukes and the commanders, I get it for free. Like when you serve Klippa, when you serve the forces of evil, you're getting all the influence for free. You don't have to do anything to get that influence. It comes here. Take it. No cost. Handouts. Oh, so I don't have to work? You don't have to work. Oh, well, we're Americans. We like not working. This seems great. So there's actually a logic in choosing the sun and the moon, the powers of evil, the people in our lives that we're thinking they give us power, whatever the alternative is, and not choosing the king. That's one reason why a regular person consciously, knowingly could choose to serve Klippa and not Hashem, could choose to give credence to matters of this world and powers and forces of this world and not serve Hashem, even though they know Hashem is the king. A second reason why you could want to get your energy and blessings and powers from the intermediaries, which bottom line means the forces of evil, is because they give freely. When you're getting from Hashem, when you're getting from the king, it's like measure for measure. You get what you deserve. Based on your work, that's what you're getting. When you're getting through the forces of evil, through the Klippa, there's no calculations. You get it abundantly. So if I'm thinking it over, I'm like, it might make sense to serve the intermediaries. It might be better to take the duke and the commander, not the king. The king, I got to work for. Who likes work? The king, he's only going to give me what I deserve. Who likes getting what you deserve? If I go for the small guys, the forces of evil, the intermediaries, they give me without work. That's amazing. I don't like to work. And they give me much more than I deserve. They give me freely, take. They're pouring at me all this great blessings. Sounds awesome. So why would anyone choose the king? For that, you have to be clever. Because the clever person understands he can see bigger than personal, individual benefit. I don't have to work and I'm going to get a lot more than I deserve. Forget more than I deserve. Forget the fact that I have to work hard. I have to work hard because to connect to Hashem, I need nullification. I need bittul, and that's hard work. I don't care. I want from the king. That's what's special. That's what we're calling the clever person. That's the person who's really connected to God, who gets it. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to get less. And this is what I want, right? Of course. And I'm sure we're all seeing why this Chassidic discourse is so powerful, because of course this discourse is talking about our relationship with God, but we can understand the ripples of effect of our relationship to the Rebbe, of being Chabad, of working harder and getting less, but we're getting from the Rebbe. Okay, back to the Maimer. So you could say, what's going on? Klippa gives a lot more than Hashem? That doesn't make any sense. And of course, that's not true. Because when Klippa is giving, it's a temporary giving. And obviously, if we put this in the perspective of Mashiach, of the ultimate redemption, whoever has been receiving during the years of exile from the king is going to get from the king by redemption with massive abundance. And if you got from Klippa, well, there you're signed up for nothing. Klippa has no reality by Mashiach. So zilch, you're going to get nothing. Oh, okay. So actually, from that perspective, it's logical for the Jew to serve Hashem, right? It's the best for me. No, we say no. No, that's not it. That's not the point. Meaning, yes, it's logical. Yes, when you serve Hashem, of course, long-term it's going to pay off. And Klippa is very measly and cheap. So once they got you hooked, it's like a drug dealer, right? They first give out samples for free to get you hooked. And then they demand a lot of money. So Klippa in the beginning wants to get you hooked to transgressions. So they're bountifully, freely, generously, which is the antithesis of Klippa, of evil, giving and giving and giving. Once you got hooked, forget it. The whole channel shuts off. They have no interest in giving anything, let alone by Mashiach, by the redemption, where they don't exist and have no power to give you anything. But that's not why we serve the king. We don't serve the king because it looks like short term, it doesn't make sense, and we're self-sacrificing, and why we're being so silly? No, we're being clever because we'd rather get with hard work and minimal, but we're getting from God himself. It's worth it. Oh, actually, that's wrong. Actually, long term, it's worth it. That's wrong too. Meaning, it's not that we're choosing to serve Hashem, because really, in the end, it does make sense. No. We are serving the king without calculation. We're serving the king because he is the king. The clever person is realizing he is the king. And I want the king. Like we said, Ana Nisiv Malka. I choose the king. That's it. I'm done. It's going to be worth it. You're going to get more. It's an investment. Later, you'll get more. It's an investment. In the beginning, it looks like they're getting more, but soon we'll actually see we get more. All of that's true. Again, it's a very nuanced, subtle, and very significant point that I was making here. Yes, 100% it's true. On the most pragmatic level, the best thing is to serve Hashem, or from our perspective. On the pragmatic level, the best thing is to be connected to the Rebbe. Of course that's true. That's not why we do it, because then if we did it for that reason, we'd be no different than those serving Klippa. It's just we're a little smarter, so we figured it out better. And they, silly them, they got distracted by the free, abundant hand of now, and they didn't even think long-term calculations. But later it'll be better if you serve the king. So we're like them, we're just smarter. No, clever doesn't mean because we have long-term vision and they have short-term vision. Clever means we understand who the king is, and we want to bond to the king, and that's why we serve him. So then you could say, well, doesn't everyone get this? You have to be so clever, the clever person in the mushal, in the parable, in the nimshal, the Jew, uniquely the Jew gets this. Why? Doesn't the whole world understand the king's specialness? Doesn't the whole world understand God? So why is it that only the clever one, only the Jew is embracing and serving Hashem, and the rest of mankind goes for the klippas? Why don't they all get it? If we can get it, why don't they get it? And the answer is because this is not a product of human reasoning, meaning other people can understand and appreciate the eminence of the king, but they're still choosing intermediaries because our foundational nature is yeshus, is self-concern. I don't want to have a relationship with the king at the expense of everything I'm going to have to forego, all the benefits I'm going to lose from the intermediaries, or all the laws I'm going to have to keep, right? I mean, I'm sure other people here have heard, people saying, I believe in God. I know it's all true. I don't have to do the commandments. I won't get all the great benefits of serving God. I enjoy myself. So in essence, that's sort of the perspective of the human race. It's not that the human race doesn't believe in God. It's the opposite. Chassidic says clearly that every human being believes in God. That is not the inheritance only of the Jewish people. Every human being believes in God. But every human being bottom line, wants what benefits me. The uniqueness of the clever person, of the Jew, is to transcend self and what's short-term or long-term good for me. And I'm choosing the king because he's the king and for no other reason. And of course, as we said before, even though when the Midrash is talking, that original Midrash of choosing the sun, choosing the moon, right? That's paganism, that's idolatry. But we said nowadays, we still have people choosing the intermediaries, even people that could look at themselves as very religious, right? Because we could look at things in our world and we could give them power. We could give them significance. I don't know if you would envision it that you're worshiping them, but you take them into account and you feel they're very important. Think of a shliach who has the people that give him big money, and maybe those people he thinks as very important. I mean, they're giving him big money to support all of his spiritual work and is helping bring so many people close to God. But if he dances to their tune, he's still serving an intermediary, even though he has all these holy reasons in mind. In understanding this, the Mimer quotes the Alter Rebbe's famous words. It says that the Alter Rebbe, when he was in a state of deep dveikus, deep fusion with God, he would say, I don't want anything. I don't want your Gan Eden. I don't want your Olam Haba. I want nothing but you alone, right? This is what we mean by the Jew. This is prototype Jew, prototype clever person, right? Now, obviously, we can't compare someone who's an Oved of a Jazara, someone who's worshiping an idol, worshiping and dancing to the sun and moon, versus maybe a holy person who wants Gan Eden and Olam Haba, right? I mean, wow, if only I only wanted Gan Eden and Olam Haba, I'd be in a really good space. But in the end of the day, the person that's serving the sun and moon and the person that's serving for his piece of Gan Eden and Olam Haba, let alone the person who's serving to get more blessings in this world, let alone the person who's serving because he's scared, otherwise he's going to get whacked by God. All of these people have the same commonality. It's all self-interest. You're dancing to the sun and moon for the benefits you're going to get, self-interest. You're keeping the mitzvahs because you're scared something bad's going to happen if you don't, self-interest. You're keeping the mitzvahs much higher level to bring down all the pain in your life, self-interest. Even the person, as we're saying, who wants Olam Haba, who wants Gan Eden, that person is also has self-interest, a very godly self-interest, a very spiritual self-interest. Halavai, if that was my self-interest, it would be amazing. But it's still self-interest. Doesn't make a difference if self-interest is materialism or self-interest is Gan Eden, the divine presence. It's still, I'm thinking about myself, what I want. The clever person, this is representing each and every one of us. The Jew says, I don't want anything but you alone. I'm choosing Hashem, doing the work of bittul, of nullification, doing the service of refinement, and not doing it because of all of the benefits I will get out of it, even though, of course, I will get benefits. Of course, when we serve Hashem, we get so many blessings and we have so much protection. And physically and spiritually, it's the best thing for us. But that's not why we're doing it. Because if we do it for that reason, we're just smarter and deeper and wiser than the pagan who Nebuch thinks he's going to get, his delights from the sun and moon. We're still in the same boat. We're just at a higher level. The clever person says, Ana Nisiv Malka, I'm serving the king. I just want the king. Whatever work I have to do, I want the king. Whatever I'm going to get or not get, I want the king. And this is so strongly speaking to us in terms of our understanding of ourselves as Chassidim. Let's go back to the original mashal and nimshal, right? The original mashal, the Midrash is describing the Jews as that clever person, right? As versus the nations that they're choosing the duke and the commander, the sun and the moon. The Jews were clever. We choose God. That's the mashal. What did it represent? What did the Midrash say? The Jewish people, by contrast, serve only Hashem. And that's what the pasuk means. That's what the verse means. Chelki Havaya. Amra nafshi. Hashem is my portion. God is my portion. So says my soul. It seems there's a conflict between the mashal and the nimshal. Why? When we're looking at the mashal, we're saying the clever person chooses the king. Like, duh. It's silly to choose the second in command or third in command or fourth in command or fifth in command. Well, you could choose the number one. So that's rational. That's logical. Makes sense. The nations of the world are being foolish. They're choosing the intermediaries. They're choosing the forces of nature, that God is the source of their power. And we are wise. We go to the source of power. We go to God himself. That's what the mashal is saying. But that's not what the nimshal is saying. The nimshal says the Jewish people serve only Hashem, chelki havaya. There's just an essential bond. There's an inherent spiritual relationship between a Jew and God that's not rational. That just is. And that's why we serve Hashem. The mashal is saying or implying, makes sense. We're more clever. The nimshal of that mashal from this very midrash is saying, this is the nature of the Jew. So how do we resolve this conflict? So the Mimer says that really there's these two levels in the mashal and the nimshal because there's two aspects of our makeup. On one hand, there is a rational component. Logically, rationally speaking, the best thing in the world is to serve God. We could discuss it with people. We could prove it. We uphold it. The best thing is to serve God. It's the best way to live a physical life. Shabbos is the best thing for you. Kosher is the best thing for you. Tznius is the best thing for you. Taras Mishpacha is the best thing for you. The best thing in the world is to serve Hashem rationally, let alone thinking of all you're going to benefit. The mitzvahs themselves rationally are the best way to live. But at the same time, why does the clever person make that logical decision to serve God? Because of the inner bond with Hashem that his soul shares. I think of this sometimes like in terms of Shabbos. If you would tell someone, you have someone not religious, not Jewish, you have 25 hours in the week where you don't touch your phone, you don't go on social media, you don't get in your car, you can't do laundry, you don't go to work. What do? You eat, you reflect your relationship with God, with your family, you have big meals, you talk to people, to each other, to other people in your community. Like everyone in the world would say, wow, that's amazing. I love it. Oh, you could do it too. I mean, so to speak, of course not. They'd be like, no, I could never handle that. It's amazing. I could never do it. Taras Mishpacha, right? Explain to someone the concept, the cycle, on and off and separation and renewal. It's interesting. It's a brilliant system that any rational person could see makes so much sense. But no one in the world is going to do it. Example. We could think of all the examples of all the things that make so much sense, but no one would do it if we, because of our religious beliefs, don't have television, don't go to movies, don't expose ourselves to media. Wow, that's great. All the doctors and psychiatrists and professionals of the world would say this is the best way to live, the best way to raise your children. So why is everyone else doing it? Because even if something is rational, and rationally, Shabbos makes the most sense. Rationally, Tznius makes the most sense. I'm not objectifying myself. I want people to look at me as a person, not a body. You could take so much of your relationship with Hashem, and it's so rational. It's obviously the best thing for us. But no one in the world would do it if they didn't have to, if they weren't a Yid serving Hashem. Because, again, as human beings, the fact that something makes so much sense still isn't going to be enough for us to overcome our own passions and desires. And right, like how many of us struggle with controlling our food choices, but we're not going to eat fleishiks if we're milchiks. We're not going to eat that if it's not our hechsher. What's going on? So on one hand, all of our service reflects logic. The logic of why these mitzvahs make so much sense. Add the overlay of logic of all the benefits, spiritual and physical, God gives us because of the service. It's like the Midrash is saying, the clever person. Obviously, it makes the most sense. But like the nimshal of the Midrash, but the only reason we're doing this Yes, it makes so much sense. But as humans, what does that necessarily have to do with anything? Why is the rest of the world keeping the benefits of Shabbos or kosher or tznius or taras hamishpacha? Because we're indulgent human beings and we're not going to do that to ourselves. But because of what the nimshal is, because of the inner bond with Hashem, the oneness of my neshama, of my soul and God, that's the real reason I'm choosing. And on the surface, the clever, the rational, the logical is exactly parallel to this. So rationally, the best thing is to serve God. But as self-interested human beings, as short-sighted, pleasure-driven, self-absorbed and obsessed human beings, we wouldn't do it. But because of the inner bond, what the nimshal is expressing, because of the inner soul connection between us and God, that compels me to be truly rational, transcend being human, and instead be rational and serve the king. So my mind is being shaped by the spiritual bond that transcends reason. And because of my bond that transcends reason, I very rationally am picking the king. So a person could then ask another question and say, well, wait a minute. Since the real reason we're choosing the king is because of the soul's essential bond with Hashem, with God, why do we even have a mushal of being clever? Like, why are we putting this in reason and explaining why the best thing is to serve God and why every mitzvah is the best for me and why I will receive all the bounty and the physical reality from the mitzvah and all the bounty and the spiritual reality from the mitzvah and the relationship with God himself from the mitzvah? Well, what goes levels? It's because of the inner bond of a Jew and God. I should just transcend this and go beyond the reason. It has nothing to do with reason. Why am I like putting it down in something called a reason? So to understand this, the basic point is that when we're talking about our bond with God, our bond with Hashem, that's not like an appendage. That's the essence of our being. That's who I am. And who I am should penetrate, should permeate every aspect of self, including my intellect. So if I'm a Jew, because I'm a Jew, I'm compelled. I only want God. And that completely transcends my reason. It means it didn't penetrate my reason. It means it didn't penetrate me. It means that it's not my essence. Because if the choice is coming from my essence, that choice will be expressed in every aspect of self. If something is essential, something is coming from essence, nothing is blocking its expression, even seichel, even intellect. So if it's really me in my essence and being, it has to get into my seichel. It has to be reflected in that my brain is resonating and saying, yes, you're right. The best thing is to serve Hashem, is to serve God. Chassidim very much were like affected by this mimer, Nisiv Malka. Everything the Rebbe is explaining about a Jew's relationship to Hashem is really reflecting our hiskashrus, is really reflecting our relationship with the Rebbe. As I said, the Rebbe said this on Yud Aleph Nisan, on his birthday. The Rebbe here in this mimer is articulating, there are other faster, easier ways to get the good stuff. If you go for the king, you're going to be doing a lot of hard work. It's bittul, it's avodah. But if you really have this inner bond, if you really want to internalize your essence connection, you go for the king. And then it affects every part of you. And that's us and the Rebbe. You could obviously understand this could be applicable on many different levels of reality of ourselves. Chassidim in the Tafshin Pei Vav. Oh, it'd be simpler if I was like this. It'd be simpler if I was like that. It'd be simpler if I was like this. But Ana Nisiv Malka. We serve the king. We go for the king. Is it always better for us? Maybe short term it doesn't think so. Is it easier for us? 1,000,000% not. That's for sure not. So what are you doing it for? Ana Nisiv Malka. We serve the king. We have to work harder. Yes. Seemingly we're getting less. Perhaps. Doesn't make a difference. Ana Nisiv Malka. We serve the king. The wonderful thing at some point for us to think about and reflect, take pride in, take joy in. It's like the Rebbe speaks a lot. Why joy is so important in our avodas Hashem. If you're happy, that means you show this is so special. This is so precious. This is so significant. This is so important. You get the, as the Rebbe calls it, the chashivus and yoker. And that's why you're happy when you're doing it. You're happy when you make Pesach. You're happy in all the physical details. You know, God is found in the physical, and this is how he wants to be served. And you can have a joy in it. When we look at ourselves as Chassidim and we get the chashivas and yoker, we get the specialness that we can serve the king, that we could on some way be helping the Rebbe, connecting to the Rebbe, giving to the Rebbe, being with the Rebbe. Wow. It's not just that we should do more. We should have such a feeling of simcha, of the chashivas and yoker, of the preciousness of what it means that we're actually one with and helping the king.